Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of 5 Questions with the Paulist Fathers. Today, we're going to go what might seem to be a strange place. We're going to go out to a monastery in Colorado, and that's where we find Father Terry Ryan. And Father Terry, question one, what's a Paulist doing in a monastery? And maybe, in this time of pandemic, how is living in a monastery different than it's ever been before?
Well, I got a couple of answers for that. One of the things that I always came to the monastery for the summer because I'm a traveling teacher of prayer, especially meditation, contemplative prayer. Well, there's very little work in the summer. People are going away, parishes aren't hiring you, and so on and so forth. So forget it. So I've always come up here in the summertime. And this year, when COVID hit, I had been in Florida at the Vero Beach House, flew back to Boulder, where I live a lot, and everything was shut down, which means I wasn't going to teach in Boulder anyway. I wasn't going to teach anywhere. So I discovered Zoom and came up here May 14th and haven't left since.
Wow.
And it's very safe. The monastery is closed up, much like our house in San Francisco. I mean, there's a lot of people in. And it's very safe. All the monks have had our 2 shots.
Good.
And here I get to do the work that I do, teaching prayer, teaching about the mystics of our various traditions. And I do it on Zoom. I don't have to get on airplanes, no airports. I love it. So it's got great possibilities. And for me, I'm still working. I'm still doing what I do. But I also get a lot of time to pray and to prepare my talks, which is what I used to do during the summer, do my research, put together outlines so that I could announce this is what I'm going to do. So what's different about it now is that the monks have you could see them switching their attitude from he's a visitor. Yes, we're nice to him, but we don't go out of our way. To where this guy's living here, and I'm their bread baker, which I learned to do, and their librarian, which no one wanted to do. So those are 2 things I do for them. So now I'm very much part of this community instead of just being on the outside of what they do and them being kind to let me in. So I basically have a open ticket to stay here as much as I want. So that's it.
Cool. So question 2, when you leave the monastery and head back to your other Paulist locale, which I know you haven't done in a while, but when you leave a place like that and go back to San Francisco to be with your Paulist brethren, how does the rhythm of your daily life change?
Well, what I've learned is I had been spending a certain amount of time here, a certain amount of time in San Francisco, and a certain amount of time in Vero Beach, Florida, and then Boulder. And what I came to discover once I started really living here, I mean, since May 14th, I haven't gone anywhere, is I'm a visitor every place I go. And there's a very subtle way that people treat you when you're a visitor. You're really not part of. And so when I go to San Francisco, which I've started living there, I've had a room there since 2007, I think. I'd go out there and I'd do some work. But once I've done that work, it's not worth being there because I can't make any money for the Paulist Fathers, by the way.
Right.
So I leave there and I go back to Boulder where I can do much more work. So what I think, I don't know how it will unfold with Eric and the next president of the Paulist Fathers, but I don't see them knocking on my door saying, we want you to go so-and-so to do something. So what it might come to is this would be my base, and I would go to Boulder, which I could drive to in a few hours, and do teaching and some preaching here and there for people, live teaching, Zoom. It's going to be hybrid from now on. That's my sense.
For sure.
And then and I can visit Florida as I do each year. Have a sister there and do a little work there. Stay at our Vero Beach house. So I'll go out there and be with my brothers. I do like to spend time with them, but otherwise the only place I get to spend time with is a little bit of Vero Beach and that wonderful ordination that we have that gets about 75% of our community showing up for 3 or 4 days. I love that.
Yeah,
But
isn't that great?
that's probably not going to happen this year. So, okay.
Yeah. So question 3, you were, from what I remember about you when I visited you in Tennessee, was how much of an athletics fan you were in Tennessee. And so what's one way that sports sustains you spiritually? And this year when sports shut down for some periods of time, what else sustained you? Was it like a Netflix show or a good book or a comfort food? What were the things that kept you going?
What amazed me is I lost interest in sports, except golf. I
Ah,
follow golf. Tiger Woods. I couldn't tell you who won the World Series. I know who won the Super Bowl because it just happened. But I know who won the Masters last spring or last year, whenever it was taken, Tiger Woods. So I follow golf for some reason, but otherwise, I've lost interest. We had a big Super Bowl party this Sunday at somebody's house. And, I wanted the GOAT to win, and the GOAT proved he's the GOAT. But otherwise, now and again, I glance, but I can't get that great interest in any of it. And so that's been a big change for me. I've always been a sports fan because we have no television here. We have no radio here. We have no
uh,
newspapers here. So I would have to chase after it on the internet. And I would rather read or go for a walk or bake bread or do my library work. I mean, the days fly by. Believe me, they just fly by up here. So I'm not chasing after internet stuff anymore. And so I'm sustained really by the life here, the pace of the life.
nice. So question 4, you've been an expert now in contemplative prayer for quite some time. And but what's one way that contemplative prayer has sustained you this year that's maybe different than it was in the past, or has it been different than it has been in the past?
Well, one of the things I thought of is contemplative prayer is going nowhere when you can't go anywhere because people I want to go here, I want to see this, I want to see that, and contemplative prayer says there's no place to go in the prayer. You're already here. So why don't you just sit down, be quiet, stop thinking about stuff, drop your self pity, and just be present to ultimate reality, which we call God, and let God do the work under various methods that people use, Lexio, centering prayer, whatever
Mhm.
it is. But just stillness and the silence has been made available to me much more so because of COVID. I'm not spending a lot of time traveling. I'm not spending a lot of time in between talks, talking to people, lining things up. So uh, it's just contemplative prayer sustains me as it's always sustained me. Without that deep prayer, what would I be doing talking about it? I'd be a pundit, but I wouldn't know anything. And Isaac Hacker, by the way, if that's your 5th question,
Huh.
in a book called 19th Century Spirituality for Our Time by Paulist historian Paul Robichaud, it's all about things Hecker says. I think this book should fly off the shelf to every Paulist associate. I'll read one paragraph on contemplation in the active life. Hecker says this: peace, tranquility, silence is also a species of action, that too, the most effective, rare, and sublime. And then he says, natural man, I guess that's not us, thinks of the converse. And the doing of the soul with God is idleness and folly. Most people think it's idleness and folly for me to sit here and pray because I'm a Paulist and we're supposed to be active. The founder of the Paulist Father said, you better get a little inactive if you're going to be active. Otherwise, your ego is going to take over and you're going to get just very self-centered and your ministry is going to be all about you. I've been there, so I know. So I don't want to go there again. So
Nice.
that's why I
Yeah.
think a Paulist Father is supposed to be a contemplative, says our founder.
Good enough for me, right? And finally, our last question, question 5. Your blog is a daily read for me, Father Terry's Spiritual Stuff. What's one way that blogging brings you closer to God and maybe to others?
Well, my blog is really a diary.
Yeah.
People say, why don't you keep a daily diary? My father used to keep a diary, and often he'd just write about what he ate, and occasionally he'd have a great insight. But I decided that if I was going to put something down for a day, I said, "Is this something that I think is worth somebody's reading? Could it be helpful? Because it's helping me." So I'm writing upon something that's helping me. So it's personal, it's a diary, and then sharing it with other people. I don't save them. I got a couple of thousand of them, but I don't know if anybody saves them. But who cares? It's not my issue. But so that's what I do, and that connects me to hundreds of other people. And some of them, they respond at all, but it connects me to those people, and it gives me a daily way of reaching out to help people where they are, which is exactly what the Paulist Fathers are supposed to do.
Yeah, go where they are, right? That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's a daily read for me, and
Well, thank you.
yeah, no, I love it because it's one. This is gonna sound horrible, but it's not too long, and
Yes.
I can read it very quickly. So like in between meetings or something like that, I'll check
Yes.
it out. But it's incredibly consistent. Like I know every day something is going to be there, and it's always edifying as well. So thanks for all that, and
You're welcome.
I'm glad you're having a great time out there at the monastery, and we'll look forward to seeing you back in San Francisco when you get back in town. And he's Father Terry Ryan. I'm Mike Hayes. This has been 5 Questions with the Paulist Fathers, and we'll see you all again at another time.
Bye bye.